An eventful afternoon at Portman Road in the end, 2-2. It's finished between Ipswich Town and Sheffield Wednesday. Stuart, a game some would have called it must win. It definitely was must not lose, and Town have had to dig deep to make sure that they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one still at the moment. Mixed feelings, and I'm sure that will be the case for many coming away from Portman Road today. Ipswich, I guess the positive is Ipswich found themselves in a real sticky situation in that first half. Missed penalty, 2-0 down, were rocking big time at that moment in the game, and yet they've come back to draw 2-2 thanks to a pair of free kick goals. And probably look the side more likely to win it in that second half. Draw leaves us in a bit of
it's limbo land.
A limbo land, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to feel, isn't it? You feel more positive about it that they've come back to draw 2-2 than being pegged back to draw 2-2, although Sheffield Wednesday will probably go away from this feeling even more positive than Ipswich, because I'm sure they would have taken a point from this game before it even kicked off. But Nathan Broadhead's goal was very, very important, wasn't it? Because they wouldn't have got that result today if they hadn't found one before half-time, because things were not going well. It was 2-0 down, it could have been 3-0 down. There were opportunities for Wednesday to do that. There some discontent in the crowd. I don't know what it would have been like at half-time had the goal not gone in, but you have to praise the character, I think, for the way they did come back into that and the way that they did work their way back to secure a draw, which kind of leaves you a bit kind of as you were. But they've not made the dent in Wednesday that we wanted them to today in the end. A
few sliding doors moments in this game, and we won't know whether they're what type of sliding doors moments they are in the season for a little while yet. The first of which was the penalty in the 19th minute, which we're still not 100% sure on what it's given for. It's an off-the-ball incident at a corner, which the linesman on this side, just behind us, did well to spot because it was on the other side of the box. Wes Burns went down to holding his neck, face area. Marvin Johnson was the player sort of jostling with him. I think the insinuation is there was the flailing arm. But yeah, the linesman waved fast and furiously, and the referee came over. Long delay before that penalty could be taken, which probably didn't help Connor Chaplin. Leif Davis had to guard the penalty spot to stop Aidan Flint giving it a bit of a scuff up. No card eventually given because the referee said, well, I wasn't really sure who the perpetrator was, and I think Marvin Johnson disappeared into the crowd and made sure that he couldn't be further punished. But Ipswich did get the penalty. I'm not sure the delay particularly helped Connor Chaplin. He's tried to go with the safer option of putting it low and through the middle. Dawson's kept it out with his trailing leg, and that really sort of flattened the atmosphere, didn't it? Just deflating moment that.
He had to get the ball off George Hurst first as well. He fancied that penalty, but Cameron Dawson's got an incredible penalty record, by the way. He's, I think Sheffield Wednesday fans would have felt very confident about that, but just that trailing toe has kept them out. And such a big moment in such a big game, wasn't it? And it felt massive at the time when it didn't go in, but it felt even bigger a few minutes later when Sheffield Wednesday did go ahead. And it's a really high quality goal. Ipswich won't be happy with elements of it, the way that it was born out of a quick free kick, something that Wednesday did a week ago to beat Plymouth. But that header and the cross and then the header from Michael Smith was spectacular. That was a spectacular goal. Yeah,
Kieran McKenna's of the opinion that he's okay with that one because it's a couple of moments of individual brilliance. He's right. He says that the header is one that if anyone scores that in world football, we're purring over it on the run across the goalkeeper, put a bit of power and precision on it. Windass off of his weaker foot, I believe, to get that cross in. But it's the bit before that, as you say, Sheffield Wednesday have scored a very similar goal last weekend. Leif Davis, who did post-match, said that they talked about that pre-match, and it was a lapse in concentration for them to take a quick free kick and work it up that left-hand side. So a lapse in concentration for that one. 1-1. Michael Smith giving the cup in the ears and shushing the North Stand to rub salt in the wounds. And a few minutes later, it's 2-1. And this one, there's a few more holes to pick from a defensive point of view for Ipswich Town. It's a long ball forwards, couple of opportunities to to stop the build-up and stop the cross again down Ipswich Town's right-hand side. Bannon digs out the cross. Leif Davis doesn't get enough on his clearing header at the back post, and George Byers, his run is not tracked, his late run into the box is not tracked, and then he puts the ball in the net, and it's 2-1. And
2-0.
2-0, sorry, 2-0 at this stage, of course it is, yeah. And yeah, Ipswich were in a real hole at that moment in time.
Yeah, there was a chance for a third as well, wasn't there? I want to see it again. It seemed very bizarre. Just Michael Smith managed to get in behind Luke Wolfenden, who looked to have switched off, and thankfully his touch around Walton was far too heavy, and it ended up in the goalkeeper's arms eventually, and not in the back of the net. But 3-0 down would have been a completely different story for Town here in a stadium that was starting to feel a bit wobbly, a team that was starting to look a bit wobbly, just not on it. And at that point, you were feeling like Ipswich were clinging on in this game just to be in touch in some way, shape or form. But then, thankfully, Nathan Broadhead's come up with something which ultimately is the catalyst for the point here.
I've not known the mood change so dramatically emotionally within a stadium within such small periods within a game. It went from sort of stunned silence when it went 1-0, 2-0. Then when Smith went round the goalkeeper and they almost made it 3, it then sort of almost turned to anger and rage, where this packed out Portman Road crowd was sort of, you know, collectively urging the team to wake up, and what are you doing in a game of this magnitude, what's going on, to utter joy when Nathan Broadhead sticks an absolute peach of a free kick into the top corner via the underside of the crossbar. Dawson goes the right way, gets quite close to it, but no goalkeeper in the world is keeping that one out. It was a brilliant strike, and completely changed the mood, because I think if they'd have gone in 2-0 down at half-time, there would have been boos, and that would have been a really difficult situation to rescue.
Yeah, it would. But they did everything they needed to do clearly at half-time. That even at that point, I was feeling like, okay, they've got a foothold in this, but if they don't defend properly to start the second half, this could get away from them again, and they have to start the second half on the front foot. And they did exactly that, and they addressed things well, and a slight element of fortune about an equaliser, but as Leif Davis himself said after that, those are the elements of fortune that they've been talking about not getting so far this season. You think of the Fleetwood goal, the Plymouth goal here, the deflected ones, a little flick on a whipped Leif Davis free kick off George Byers' head. He's in the back of the net. It's 2-2, and from that point, Wednesday are happy with a point. Town have some real nice periods of pressure without necessarily forcing the moment that could bring the third. One team looked like they were going to win it for certain spells, and sadly they didn't, but they didn't lose it, and that was crucial.
Yeah, and that second half in itself is not completely without fault. That Ipswich were the better team. They were on the front foot, but it had shades of lots of the ball, creating good positions, but did they create enough chances at the end of those? From 2 goals from free kicks today. Most of the big chances came from set pieces. Connor Chaplin's header at the goalkeeper comes from a corner. Connor Chaplin's volley from the edge of the box comes from a corner.
Beautiful technique, by the way.
That was lovely, wasn't it? Over the shoulder, caught that crisp, but unfortunately straight down the goalkeeper's throat. Freddie Ladapo's big chance at the end that he steered wide, also from a corner. So you're looking at, again, at sort of, this is Ipswich's season under the microscope in a nutshell, is that need lots of chances to score goals, tend to switch off and concede from the few chances that they do create, and it's not getting them quite enough wins that they need at the moment. So mixed feelings, as we said right at the start of this video. It's a point, and it's leaving them still playing catch up in this race for the top 2. Still 6 points off Sheffield Wednesday, who have a game in hand to come. Plymouth go back to the top of the league. They're now 8 points clear of Ipswich, and Bolton have won and have moved level on points with Ipswich today, only goal difference behind. They won 5-0 at Peterborough today. Ipswich have got a game in hand on them, but how are you feeling about the bigger picture now as we head down this final straight?
that absolutely nothing's changed after today. I think they've got the minimum out of today, and they show great character to do it. But they need to go on Sheffield Wednesday style runs now, don't they? Wednesday have been on an incredible run that they haven't lost since the start of October in the league, and Town are getting to the point where you're feeling like they need to do that between now and the end of the season. It's a similar amount of games, big away games to come. Still go to Bolton, go to Barnsley, go to Derby. I think that top six will probably finish as that top six potentially, and they've got to go away to all the remaining ones that they've got to play at them. So they need to string the wins together. I'm glad they didn't lose today, because that would have made things a lot harder. But it's still going to be very, very tough, and they've got to, from a run of form that's very patchy, which it is at the moment for Ipswich, it needs to be supreme. And that starts at Bristol Rovers on Tuesday night, which isn't exactly an easy task either.
Yeah, tricky follow-up game away to Bristol Rovers, and then home to Forest Green here next weekend. Let's see if Ipswich can get some of these wins going.